This is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Welcome to this wonderful opportunity we have for our Fireside Chat this evening. We're delighted to have two gifted women of God who are going to share with us from Interfaith of Philadelphia. But before we do, let's have a word of prayer. Gracious and glorious God, it is with gratitude in our hearts that we take a moment just to thank you for your bountiful blessings. And we pray, oh God, that during this conversation, it might be enlightening, it might bring forth, oh God, opportunity to serve our youth. May, oh God, you be pleased with every word that we speak, and may you get the glory. In the wonderful, marvelous name of our God do we pray. Amen. We are delighted that you've come to share with us this evening for this Fireside Chat, Sara and Elexus. And so as we talk about Interfaith of Philadelphia, and I know a lot about your work, I was privileged to serve as a board member some years ago and know constantly how you have continued to provide support for youth across diversity and across faith lines. So tell me right now in terms of, and I'll begin with you, Sara, in terms of some of the initiatives that you're now putting forward.
Yeah, and thanks for having us. It's so nice to be here and to virtually meet the community. So at Interfaith Philadelphia, we have all kinds of programs and focusing in on youth, and Elexus will speak a bit more about the specifics of the programs. But as we talk, when we think about the ages of youth, right, that's from elementary school, middle school, high school, even through college. We're talking about people, and I was there not too long ago, but in the crux of their development and identity formation. And I think about, there's a lot of research out there about the more someone is exposed to, the more diversity, the more different ways of living, the more different types of people, the more different ideas that someone is exposed to, as they're developing their self-identity, they are learning how to better articulate themselves, understanding what they believe, who they are, and really solidifying the own formation of their identity. And at the same time, being exposed to all of those things, creates a situation where people are more open-minded down the line as adults. And that's one of the reasons that youth work and interfaith work is so important to us. And we have programs for middle school students, and we have programs for high school students, and we have programs for college students that really allow people to come together, get to know one another, to build relationships, and to build up themselves in their own faith, in their own beliefs, in who they are.
One of the reasons why I think this program is so valuable is because we have so much division in our country. And I believe with all my heart that young people sometimes learn how to become racist by what they see at home or what they hear at home. And the opportunity to work together across faith lines, across economic lines, as well as across ethnic lines. So I'm appreciative of Interfaith of Philadelphia and Walking the Walk program that our youth were involved in at one particular time. And so it's just good to see people come together. And I was excited when I had the opportunity to meet with you just a few days ago. But tell me right now how you sit next to Sara Elexus and how you have come into this program, and what do you feel that are some things on your heart that you want to achieve as a young person?
So at the current moment, I already work with youth. I also teach dance in my neighborhood. So that is one way that I sort of already work with youth. But with interfaith work, I've come to just find that I love to be around youth, and just like you said, it's what we're exposing them to, it's what we're bringing them to, and it's also what they're interested in. We want to make sure that we're providing them exactly what they need and exactly what they want. So that's sort of what I'm interested in right now. And as for our programs, we have launched our Walking the Walk program, which includes our high schoolers. We will soon launch a Walking the Walk and a Mosaic for middle schoolers. And then in the summer, we also have an alternate break program. So we are just trying to reach our youth in all aspects outside of just like meeting them in their homes or meeting them in their places of worship. We want to meet them where they're at.
So Elexus Freeman-Filmore.
Yes, that's me.
And you are the youth program manager.
Yes.
Tell me, even though you've been doing that in your church, what drew you to Interfaith of Philadelphia?
I wanted, honestly, to just challenge myself a little bit further. As I said, I've been really involved in like the dance world with youth, so I wanted to see what could I do with youth based off of my own faith. What could I bring from my own previous past experience? I am a Christian Baptist. What could I bring into a space when I'm meeting Jewish people, when I'm meeting Muslim, when I'm meeting, just people from all different faiths. So I really just wanted to challenge myself and be a voice and be a model for the other youth that are coming up.
So Sara, let me see if I pronounce your name right. Zebovitz? Zebovitz.
It's a rough one.
Okay, but at the same time, as I listen to this gifted young lady speak, you're sitting in a facility that was once a synagogue. Mm-hmm. And right behind us is a gift that Beth Orr gave to us. And we've been here for 15 years. And we've been doing a lot of things across faith lines. Beth Orr congregation, we went to the Holy Land with them. We've gone to the Holocaust Museum, and Rabbi Marks has spoken here, and I have spoken at the synagogue. In fact, I will be speaking at the synagogue in January. He'll be speaking here. So we've developed a wonderful relationship. And to break down some of those stereotypes that people have regarding different faiths, different kinds of things. And so I'm just delighted again that I see two individuals from two different faiths, two different ethnicities, working together for our youth. And so your passion is obvious. And what are some of the challenges you have around some of the programs that you have? Are you getting enough people to respond, and how can we help individuals respond here at Bethlehem and in our community?
Yeah, definitely. I think the effects of the pandemic really created this challenge where people don't want to spend any more time looking at a computer than they have to. And it's also scary to go out and about and meet people. But despite that, last year we had more youth in our high school program. So I'll just say a couple words about the Walking the Walk program. The youth in the program, who all come from different backgrounds, they go to each other's houses of worship, get to know the community, talk to the religious leader there, get to ask each other questions, and also get to reflect on other pieces. And this year there's a leadership component as well with the high school program. And so last year, we had more students than we've had in the last 7 years participating in our program virtually. And this year, as we launched the leadership version of that program, we're looking at a smaller group, and that's intentional a little bit of saying, it's for people who want to take that next step in interfaith leadership. And interfaith work can be messy, very messy. And what we try to do is allow for that mess to exist in a controlled way and in a way that is safe to explore that mess. And there are some core belief differences that we come across with youth and adults in interfaith work. And being able to talk through those and listen to understand as opposed to listening to convince is a core piece of that. And I think as we look forward into the spring when we're planning to launch a Walking the Walk program for middle school students, we'd love to be able to include this region and Beth Orr and Bethlehem Baptist Church and other congregations and youth in this area as we delve into that, not just for the students to meet each other, but also to meet those from other areas of the city as well. Most of our youth right now are on the main line and in West Philly, and a few from Center City. And, having that interaction also between the suburbs and the city, and, there's so many potential differences between people. And I think that what Interfaith Philadelphia and interfaith work in general attempts to do is to say, all right, let's look first at what's under all those differences, on the baseline and this desire to understand one another. And then let's delve into those differences and not be afraid of them, but talk about them, understand them, and be able to really accept one another for them. And the big picture hope, is to have regions and a greater Philadelphia region as a whole that really understands each other and is built on trust and on hope. And it doesn't have to be perfect. We don't need everyone to agree. We don't need everyone to look the same. We don't need everyone to act the same. But the ability to have those conversations and still recognize the worth of every individual is what's at the core of what we're doing. But it's not simple. And I think it's so beautiful what you and Rabbi Marks have developed also. I mean, in my own family I grew up in an interfaith extended family, and I didn't even think about it as interfaith. And now as I've been more involved in Interfaith Philadelphia and I understand what was so special there, and I think it's so incredible to see the youth that have come together in the programs and are still good friends across religious barriers, across racial barriers, across socioeconomic barriers, and having the space where they can really talk about those issues, I think, is the only way to make that happen.
And you're absolutely right. It can become messy at times. And I think it's about relationships, that we get to know each other. It doesn't mean we always have to agree.
Right.
Rabbi Marks and I have been friends for almost more than 25 years. And there have been times when we've had different perspectives, but that never broke our relationship. I think the other thing is that when you speak about messy, we've been working with the Evangelical Lutheran Church in Percy, which is predominantly Caucasian congregation, even though we have pushed the envelope to be a multicultural congregation, still predominantly African American, and had some tough conversations. And I think that until we come to the point that we can have these tough conversations, particularly as youth, because already, and unfortunately, some of their minds have already been set. So how do we break that pattern, and that we can see people as God has created us, and that we can respect people from all walks of life. We've done something else also, working with the North Penn Mosque here in Lansdale, and to understand that their way of faith may not be ours, but they have values that we can affirm and appreciate. So I think, again, the opportunity to work together and to see two of you sitting together side by side with different faiths and different opportunities, and yet at the same time for the same goal, to make a difference. And I think that's so important, and doesn't mean you give up anything. And sometimes our young people, and now in the city of Philadelphia, unfortunately, as well as many of our urban cities, there's so much violence, and that sometimes stems from this matter of hatred or low self-esteem and no value of life. So how do we do that? And so the programs not only provide opportunity, in my understanding, of how to embrace others, but giving sense of self-worth and self-identity, no matter where you come from, whether it's neighborhood or whatever. And so I'm just delighted that two young people are moving in this journey, and you can help others, because sometimes as adults, we're not always able to relate, or sometimes we feel as though that our young people are not listening. But the fact that both of you are still young and you're able to get the attention of other young people, to me, is a blessing. And I'm sure that it's been a blessing to each of you as you have sought to help others. You in turn received something for yourself. So what have you received from this endeavor yourself personally?
Me?
Yes.
So for me, myself, just it's all been a learning experience. Like you said, youth sometimes feel, or we as adults feel like they're not listening to us. I'm trying to give them, the keys to life. And it's like, sometimes it's the other way around. Like they might have gone through an experience that I have never gone through, that I have never even known about. And that then can guide me for something else later on into my life. So I would say that's one thing that I've learned. And at the same time, youth honestly just want someone to listen to them, and being able to just be that person, be that model for them, and just be a stand-in for them is great for me. And it's a learning piece. And sometimes it's hard not to take things home and to feel like it's all on me to fix things and help them and guide them through everything. But at the same time, they're helping me, they're guiding me, and they're quote unquote fixing me in some of the ways that I may have been thinking for years. I'm starting to think and see things a little bit differently.
I know when I had a chance a couple days ago to meet Sara at Starbucks, she was talking about her faith. So tell me about your faith in terms of, are you a minister, or what are you engaged in terms of your own church and your own relationship with the Lord?
So at the moment right now, I am just a member of the church. When I was younger, I used to be in the choir. I used to be on the praise dance team. I used to be on the worship team. But since college, I've kind of stepped back a little bit, and I'm trying to find exactly what I want to do and how I can be a vessel in my church at this time. And because of that, I've been just focused on interfaith work. And I just started this job, so I feel very focused on that at the moment. But in the future, I would hope to start another dance ministry or join the one that is already at my church. And
What church do you attend?
so I attend Enon Baptist
Okay, sure,
Church in
okay.
Cheltenham. So, but it's such a big church. Sometimes it feels like there's already enough people doing everything. But at the same time, if I have something to offer, I don't want to hold that back, and I don't want to not be a voice for a young person that also might feel like there's just so many people here, no one sees me. So I have to kind of like transition out of that mindset.
Well, I wish you would transition
Yeah.
because Enon is a tremendous place of worship, and there are many people like yourself who sit in the pew who feel as though that they may not be of value, but I know Pastor Waller, that he would certainly affirm your giving back and even having the opportunity to talk to him about the Interfaith program itself, because he has a tremendous commitment for youth as well. So I know that for myself. In fact, this week it's 8 Days of Glory as we're talking now.
Yes, we've been
I plan to be
watching.
there tonight, and I'm going to bring the word tomorrow during the 11 o'clock service at
Awesome.
Enon. But I think, again, as I talk to Sara again about her faith, and I think faith has to be the thing that drives you. And at the same time, even as you speak to youth, not only from a social standpoint, but also from a spiritual standpoint, to help them to see that they need a God, or they need, whether it's Yahweh or whoever it may be, so that they understand that God has created them, and to give back. Because without that spiritual component, I don't think as a whole, and I could be wrong, and not as if you're going to push them there, but at the same time, we talk about faith, that they grow in their own faith and their own understanding of who they are as the people of God. And then you also have an opportunity, again, to bring those pieces that are missing together. In my office, there's a picture that Rabbi Marks and I took well over 25 years ago, talked about building bridges. And I've learned a lot about the Shabbat service and about the people of God and the Seder's and those kind of things. So I think, again, as we talk to young people, because I think there's also a missing link. But again, not to push it down their throats, but at the same time, you have an opportunity, because it's Interfaith of Philadelphia, to kind of just gently and consistently put that component out there. And when you talk about programs, now you have a number of new programs. So what programs are you, other than Walking the Walk, tell me about what is really at your heart, other programs that would be beneficial even to here at Bethlehem.
Yeah, I guess I'll share about our new institute, our Leadership Institute of Interfaith Philadelphia, launched just this month, last month maybe, that really provides many different entry places to enter into interfaith work. Some of that is through our Visionary Women program, which is women from all around the region get together, about 80 women a year. It's totally open from January through June. Once a month, 80 women get together, visit different houses of worship, and sit in small groups and develop relationships with each other. That's one entryway. There's also, we have one-time trainings for people who are interested in facilitating interfaith dialogue, or for educators who work in schools, public schools, private schools, and who are encountering, youth trying to navigate these differences that adults are still struggling with as well. And so we have specific trainings for facilitation for youth development professionals. And I think all of those programs, and there's more, many more that I didn't share, all of those programs, I think, have a lot of potential to be able to provide spaces for people from this church and from other congregations in the area and around the whole region to get to know each other. And also, we have something called the Gateway, a gateway to religious communities. And that's when anyone can sign up and they come and they visit a specific congregation. And I would love to bring a gateway to Bethlehem Baptist and, people from this area, the Ambler, Lansdale general area could participate, as well as people from other areas of the 5-county region. I think could be a really great opening There's so much going on right now, honestly. We have a program with the University of Pennsylvania that we just launched as well. And this institute is really a way to, there's just so many pathways to engage. Yeah, whether that's a one-time thing or a long-term program.
So also, is there a financial responsibility for the students who attend these particular programs?
Yes and no. We have all of our programs, aside from the Gateway, actually, all of our programs have a ticket price, and they're also a sliding scale. And we have, a whole page-long document of how to understand where you place yourself on the scale, but pricing never a barrier to participating in our programs. And we have some participants who pay almost nothing or nothing to attend our programs, and we have some who are able to pay more. So, and I say this coming from my own background of living in communes for many years, that people pay what they can, and some people pay more to enable others to pay less. So it's really accessible, and we really end up with a wide variety of people from all types of backgrounds in it as a result.
So how many people on the staff?
Our staff is, as of the other day, 10, 10, and we have many consultants also that are working with us on the Institute and in our youth programs in Chester County. We're a growing group.
And so you have a board, is that correct?
We
Okay.
do. We have a board of directors.
You have a board of directors and
fellows, former former members of the board who are still involved, and supporters like yourself. And
well, honestly, it's an excellent program, and the leadership over the years has been also excellent. And I'm just feeling that both of you have come on board with some opportunities for you to share your own gifts and opportunities to even grow further in terms of where the organization is, in terms of reaching out to our young people. The challenges are really great, and even now as we go through this virus, isolation and all those other kind of things in terms of our youth and opportunity again. So when you talk about, some of the dreams that you have for the program, what would they be? What would you like to see, even of the programs now, what is it that you would like to see accomplished under your watch?
I would honestly love to see one of our participants working at Interfaith and starting their own sort of program or something that they foresee in their heart. I would love to see them just take it even further. We do have one participant this year who actually started her own interfaith club at her school, Friends Central. So that's one step, and then let's take it a step further and let's see you working for where you participated. So I foresee that in the future.
I think one of the wonderful blessings that come out of, I received something and I want to give back. I'm a recipient of this program and I want to make sure that I'm passing along to somebody else. So what is it that in your heart you would like to see accomplished that is not there now?
Yeah, I have a vision of a Philadelphia, let's keep it small for now, of a Philadelphia region where people are not afraid to ask difficult questions of each other. And maybe I know it's not really tangible, but I think about how many people come to us and say, oh, I've lived next door to this person and I don't know how to speak with them, or I know that the person who lives next to me is Baha'i and I don't know what that means. And I want a world where people can talk about those things, where people know that Interfaith Philadelphia is there to help them do so. And I think we're looking, I think the day, I think it's a never-ending dream maybe, but the day that happens is, I think our region looks totally different. I don't think it's just about violence that we see, but also the Inquirer just came out with an article about Philadelphia being one of the most diverse cities in the country, and also the most segregated racially. And it's not just racially, it's also religiously, it's also language. There are so many things that divide us in this city, and they don't have to.
So
that's less tangible. Sorry, I was more theoretical.
So you've just come on board, and you've been working how long?
1 year, also new.
Have you experienced any pain as a result of this experience?
I don't know, pain, but challenge for sure.
Okay.
You know, where my faith isn't understood, and I need to find the right words to explain it. And there's so much, I think there's so much complexity to every faith tradition, and the month of September was all the Jewish holidays this year, and I was like 2 days a week. For 4 weeks in a row, I was off work to celebrate a Jewish holiday. And when you have to still make your way and get your work done, and also explain, it's a month of some crazy, some out there holidays, and be able to explain those. And Yom Kippur is a very somber day. And when someone says Happy Yom Kippur because they don't know, it's fine, I'm not offended by it, but then I need to find the right words to not make them feel bad for what they said because it was well intended, and also be able to, line that up with
So,
what it is.
Elexus, I'm going to ask you a tough question.
All right.
You went to Hampton,
Yes, I did.
predominantly African-American school.
Yes.
How have you felt working with a diverse group of people who are not necessarily African-American? Have you experienced any discrimination, or have you felt uncomfortable at times? And then when I ask you the same question in terms of your experience working with people of different ethnicities, because I think, again, that we can't ignore the reality that there are those who have not come to the point that they can accept people of other ethnicities and find themselves sometimes acting out. So tell me about that.
I have not seen it as a challenge at all. Basically, from my background, I grew up, initially I went to a public school, and then from there I went to a Catholic school, which was predominantly Caucasian, and then from there I went to a Christian school, which was a nice mix of different religions. Even though it is a Christian school, it doesn't mean that everyone there is Christian. And as I said, there are different races, different religions at that space. And so my family I've been really blessed to be surrounded and be put in different spaces to where I don't have to feel uncomfortable now that I'm at an older age, or I don't have to feel like I'm out of place. But, and so far, Interfaith and the staff have not made me feel anything less than welcome and wanted to be in the space. So I feel like I'm where I'm supposed to be, honestly.
Okay. Sara.
Yeah, I mean, I think Interfaith Philadelphia, the staff, the full-time staff, the makeup of the full-time staff still has a ways to go in terms of diversifying from a religious perspective, from a racial perspective, from country of origin perspective. Our board has a lot of that diversity, and our staff, we're 10 people, and we don't necessarily have enough perspectives, I think, on staff to really bring in all of the perspectives that we need for the work that we do. That said, we have so many people in our network that allow for that. And our staff are not the only people that put on our programs, and our staff are not the only people that are thinking everything through. And also, on top of that, I think our staff, all of our staff, is an incredible group of people that all have such a variety of experiences. And we do, we are a religiously diverse staff in that I don't think there are two people that practice the same denomination or tradition. That's not true. Abby and myself.
Well, yeah.
aside from myself and Abby, there are not two people that overlap. That said, there are still holes missing. And, we don't have anyone Hindu on staff, or Buddhist on staff, or Muslim on staff, or Baha'i, or I could keep going. Mm-hmm. And I think that those are holes that are missing. Personally, similarly and differently, obviously, and coming from a different place in the world, but my extended family is multiracial and multi-faith, and that was how I grew up. That was a given in my surroundings, and I've, lived in various places in the States, and I also lived in Israel, and I think differences between people are both more present and less significant at the same time, if that makes sense.
Sure.
That the difference is a given, and you bring yourself to where you are, and you put it all out on the table. But yet it's not a barrier, I think. And at Interfaith, it's interesting. We just went back into the office last month, which for me, I started during the pandemic, so I started working
So tell me where the
virtually.
office is located, because I remember when they moved.
Yeah, we're in Kensington
Right.
at the Oxford Mills, just between Gerrard and
Right.
Cecil B. Moore, essentially. And our staff meetings now, in our staff meetings, we're exploring more deeply how our own faith affects our work, which we didn't get to do virtually as much, and has been a really nice thing to be able to bring into the office, the physical office space as well.
Abby has been a warrior, and she has maintained her consistency throughout her term, throughout her time at the Interfaith. Given where we are in our country with this virus, how has it impacted the financial giving of Interfaith of Philadelphia?
The people that have the means to still give are giving more. I think everyone is realizing that, both from the virus and the separation and isolation that it's caused, and everyone is looking to connect, and people through that lens are realizing the importance of our work, and also through the continued awakening of systemic historic racism and discrimination and police brutality. Through that lens also, our work, while we focus primarily on interfaith, so much of what we do is also applicable to intergroup work. And so I think that we've found that giving has continued to Interfaith Philadelphia throughout the pandemic. And it's always, we're looking to run the programs that the region needs. What Elexus is saying about listening to what the youth are looking for, in that first session, being able to focus on the listening part. And I think that's what we're trying to do, is make sure that the work that we're doing is actually meeting the needs of the region. And thus far, we are very grateful and lucky to have, we continued to receive donations throughout the pandemic.
Do you have any particular major fundraisers, those kind of things?
Yeah, as the year comes to a close, overlapping with the launch of our Leadership Institute and our new pilot leadership youth program, we are definitely seeking funding to be able to expand those, to be able to launch our Walking the Walk middle school program, and looking for new initiatives with schools, et cetera. We definitely have, the more the demand comes in, the more that we need to raise in order to be able to continue to grow to meet that need.
So both of you have different functions. Mm-hmm. Does your work overlap, or do you get a chance to collaborate together?
Yeah, my background is in youth programs, and now I'm primarily finance and development, but I still, through working with Elexus, get to dip my toes in the youth programming, which is where I get my energy. So,
Do you feed off each other?
Definitely.
Definitely.
She happens to be my supervisor,
Okay.
so yes.
You're not saying that just because you're sitting next to you.
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
No.
I'll tell you later when I get off this couch.
No.
But I think it is good to have this kind of relationship, and that you can work together and share each other's, ideas and goals, and feed on each other. If the program is going to be successful, it's got to be a combination of a team, not one individual. So it's a team effort, and each of you have different responsibilities, but at the same time, each of you have different gifts that can be used, and how those gifts can be affirmed is really valuable. So the total of young people that you have in the program now, with all the program, how many young people would you say that you're really touching now?
Probably in a full year, I'm going to say in a COVID year, around 100 youth.
Okay, 100
In a
youth.
non-COVID year, that number is closer to 200 or 300. When high schools and colleges send their youth to an alternative break program that we run. During COVID, that wasn't able to happen, but we have the summer Mosaic program that will be launching in 3 different areas this year: Kensington, South Philly, and Swarthmore area this summer. And
So,
growing.
again, when we looked at the program here, we were in Montgomery County, and we were doing interchanges with different congregations and even in the city. So if you're talking about launching new programs, particularly in Montgomery County, would that include the county as well as the city, or how would that fit? How would that mold fit?
It'll depend on where the people are, is really what we do. We would love to launch when we launch the middle school program, we would love to launch a specific network for this area. If we can get 20 to 30 middle schoolers from this area, from multiple houses of worship, we can run a program here. That doesn't mean that it needs to exclusively visit houses of worship in this area. It can go into the city. We can do joint programs with the West Philly version, the West Philly network. There's all of the potential is on the table, and Elexus is definitely in a creating as we're going.
You're sitting here, and this is our media team that you're now facing, and then there's another young lady here who's part of our media team, but her mother is our youth coordinator. Madison Proctor that's Madison, and her mother is Nicole Proctor. But she has a heart for young people, and we're doing something after school program right here with the Wissahickon School District, bringing students, help them with their homework and tutoring, those kind of things. And so I want to give you her name. In fact, she still may be here. You can meet her, and that way you hopefully have some contact with someone here who could, help put the program in place, because again, we want to make sure that our young people here get as much exposure as possible. And I think you made a very good point that your experiences have been wide and broad, and that's the only way it's going to happen. If we live in an isolated area, whether it's the same neighborhood or same environment, that doesn't give us a chance to grow. But the opportunity that you've had, and going to a Catholic school and going to a school that was, not just African American, and to be honest with you, some of our youth have never been exposed to anyone other than their own ethnicities. So, they don't have the opportunity to learn and to appreciate somebody else. So I think those experiences are rich, and prayerfully, this church and many other congregations. I know in the past, I can't speak for Rabbi Marks, and this virus has put a hold on many of our programs, because we're still trying to get our young people back here. But at the same time, hopefully, we see the dawning of a new day and get our young people involved in particular programs of this magnitude. It's so valuable, and we push the envelope again to be a multicultural church, even though we are still predominantly African American congregation. But how do we? Because I believe that the faith community has to take the lead. Mm-hmm. If we don't, we can't depend upon the government, no matter who's in office. And the church or the synagogues or the mosques have to be the channel by which we can make some of these things happen. And I certainly appreciate the work that you're doing. If you had one thing you would want to say to those who are watching and those who are watching in the future, what would be the one thing you would say, Sara?
Ooh, take that leap. Take that first step. Take the questions that are in your head, because they are curious questions, and curious questions are the best kinds of questions, and take the leap and ask them, or ask someone how to ask them. That's
Elexus, what would you say?
I would just say come to spaces with an open heart, open mind, and just be prepared for a challenge. Don't shy away from it. Go towards it.
And so again, would the word be change or be open? Mm-hmm. Are you open to change?
I try to be.
Yeah.
Definitely open to understanding, open to improving myself. Grateful for the growth that I'm able to, as we enter, and we're entering the gratitude season now, and with Thanksgiving and holidays coming up, and I'm grateful for all the growth I've been able to experience, and that continued process, I guess.
Have you experienced this opportunity for change in your life?
Definitely. And I just feel like every day I come into this space, and every time that I see youth or I see my staff, like I'm learning something new. And I love that. You never stop learning.
So tell me about your peers. I mean, how do your friends see you in terms of doing this kind of work and your passion?
I would say they're pretty proud, because when I was in college, I went to school for communications, and then I also studied a little bit of theater. So this is nothing like either of those fields, so it was definitely a little bit like, okay, like how did you end up there? But at the same time, a few of my friends, we grew up in church together, so it's kind of like they see that it came full circle, and everyone in my life knows that I enjoy working with youth. As I said, I've been a dance teacher for 4 years now, so it wasn't a big shock at all, and it's just nothing but love and support.
And I know, Sara, you mentioned in terms of your family interfaith, and that's a rich experience. Everybody doesn't have that, and again, I'm sure you're drawing on that yourself. Is that correct?
Yeah, and my friendships have always been multi-faith also. Most of my Shabbat dinner guests are not Jewish. And it's kind of a beautiful thing. There's no, I don't experience any judgment in it. People have a lot of questions and are down to, experience this interesting dinner with candles and bread,
So a lot of people still have little knowledge of Interfaith Philadelphia. We are part of Interfaith of Ambler, and we have families who stay. In fact, they're staying here now this month of October. We've been doing that for a number of years. But when you applied for the job, how did you know about Interfaith? Did you go online, or how did you really find yourself driven to Interfaith?
Yeah, I heard about it from a family friend, someone that I've known since I was probably 4 or 5 years old from my synagogue, has been on the board, John Harris Shapiro, who you probably know well. He was on the board and connected me to Abby when I was looking for a job, and we were just networking. I didn't even know there was an open position. But it lined up with what I was looking for and my passion, and here I am.
How did you find out about Interfaith?
Google. Very simply Google, just, doing a job search in a situation that I needed to, change positions. But as I said earlier, I wanted to challenge myself. So when I saw Interfaith on, Google, I was like, let's just go for it. I don't know if I'm going to get it. I don't know if it's for me. But as I said, I really think that God has put me where I'm supposed to be. So I'm here for it.
So would you say to young people, you're looking for a fulfilling responsibility, go to Google?
Yes, go to Google. Like, just go there. And I would say when you are searching for things, like, use different language. Don't always just go for the specific things, and really use some of the language on your resume to guide your search. Like, what is it that you really want to do? What are your goals? What are your passions? Where do you see yourself, or where would you like to see yourself in a few years? So I would say think about that when you are looking on Google.
Okay, so you didn't look on Google.
I didn't.
Okay.
Well, I looked on Google, but I was connected to Interfaith.
Okay, right. Well, it's such a refreshing experience to sit here and talk to both of you. Are very young and have a heart for people, serving people, and I think that that's a missing link in our society, to give back. So it's not only fulfilling, but you're making a difference in the lives of so many people, young people in particular. And I think we need that, and nobody can do it better than you, because you have that kind of passion. And I do believe that besides your own desire to make a difference, you're making a difference in the lives of others. And Greater Philadelphia Interfaith has a wonderful track record. And Abby has, I mentioned before, just a tremendous heart, and she's never wavered in her faith and her conviction. And I'm sure she's had some challenges, and yet she still has stayed focused, and to be able to bring on young people like yourself, and I think it's needed in all of our organizations. And then you also pointed out something that's very significant, and that is that when you look at the makeup of the staff, it doesn't have the diversity that you like to see, or for that matter, even the board. So we talk about inclusion and diversity, and that's all of us. So it's not just interfaith, but the church as well. Do we have, if you say you are being multicultural and diverse, do you have that kind of leadership? So the people are not just sitting in the pew, but the opportunity to serve. And we have in our church, which is really interesting, junior deacons, junior deaconess, and junior trustees, because again, we talk about diversity, we want young people at the table. So, and I don't believe in my heart that we can talk about diversity unless we have that kind of leadership that speaks volumes about who we are. Because you can say it, But if your organization doesn't show it, then your words are meaningless.
Right.
And the mere fact that both of you are young and different faiths and also different ideas, because I'm sure I've learned something. The older we get, now you're sitting over there, so I'm sitting over here, the more difficult for change is, because sometimes we think we know or we're reluctant to change. But I'm sure the interfaith, not only have they moved to a new location, but they're not doing the same thing they did 10 years ago.
Right.
You can't, you know,
Right.
I mean, now you're dealing with this virus. Now we're dealing with more people have been killed in Philadelphia. It's almost breaking records every day.
Yeah.
And so how do we adapt to make sure there's a difference? And in terms of neighborhoods as well, you know, so many neighborhoods have now become isolated and, you know, and not having that experience to be with others. And now you have gentrification, people moving in and out of one neighborhood. So there's so many challenges. And then you have a political system that is also divisive. So in many ways, we send out a voice that is a minority voice, but that doesn't mean it doesn't have any power.
Right.
You know, our voices may not be the major thrust, but our hearts can be. And I believe that you too have a heart to serve and to serve others. And so whether or not it's Jewish faith, what did the Lord require of us? To do justice, love, mercy, to walk humbly with God. And you're doing that in many ways without necessarily putting it in a biblical passage, but you're doing the work, making the lives of our young people different so that hopefully the time will come when we'll not be talking so much about racial divide, not talking about not opportunities, not talking about women not being given the same opportunity that men have and all those other kind of barriers. So you can do that, and hopefully in time to come, we will see a different world. And that's what we hope.
And they're creating it. I mean, already this summer last year we had 3 teens who were student group leaders in the program, and they came to us at the end of the program and they said, we want to do more. Can you make us a summer internship? You know, we've never had an internship for high schoolers before. I was, yeah, sure, what do you want to do? And I think that, you know, yeah, we're constantly, you know, being changed by the youth. We're not just bringing them together, but they're, you know,
well,
changing us.
it's interesting you say that, because even as Madison is here sitting on the sideline, you're making a change. The mere fact that you have 2 young women who are advocating for change is a testimony to who you are. And I say that sincerely, that you can't ask others to do what you're not doing yourselves. And so you're making a difference in terms of, at a young age, trying to bring about some changes in our society that will be beneficial for years to come. That hopefully the time will come, as I said earlier, we're not having these same conversations, right. That we're not talking about the need to increase more diversity. It's already there. We're not talking about how we can bridge the gap across faith lines. It's already there. We're not talking about trying to get rid of racism, because we've come to understand that there is a bond that we have that is common with all of us. Mm-hmm. So I really appreciate all the work that you're doing, and prayerfully, and anything that we can do at Bethlehem. Again, I'd like for you to meet Minister Nicole Proctor, and to find ways by which we can make a difference here in Montgomery County with a program that's beneficial to all of us, and even bringing about city and suburbs, because unfortunately, there's that gap again between city and suburbs. Mm-hmm. So many different dividing lines here, yeah. And how we can, you know, bridge that. So I certainly appreciate this conversation, and you are to be commended. I know your family must be proud of you as you are constantly making a difference, both of you. And so just thank you so much. I pray again this evening that you have enjoyed this conversation, and that it gives us a glimmer of hope that no matter what we're experiencing now, we can see that our young people can make a difference. They have a heart to be concerned about one another across racial lines, across faith lines, and that they are living out what hopefully will be the vision for years to come, that we will not have these kind of conversations that are necessary anymore, but we will be one nation under God as we say we are, and we're a long way from that. But there is the hope that we can make a difference. 1 life can make a difference. 2 lives can make a difference. 3 lives can make a difference. And again, learn more about, go on Google and find out about Interfaith of Philadelphia. Go on Google and find out how you can make a difference. Use Facebook for something good, and use the social media for something good, and make a change in your life, make a change in the lives of all of us. So again, thank you so much. We could not conclude without giving God thanks for this evening. Every Thursday evening at 7 o'clock, we hear Fireside Chat, and we're just grateful that you've tuned in. Tell somebody about what's taking place here at Bethlehem. And if they have not had an opportunity, let them know that there's an opportunity for you to learn more about Philadelphia Interfaith as they watch this wonderful presentation by these two gifted young women of God. Let us pray. Gracious God, we thank you tonight for these two anointed, beautiful, gifted young ladies. We pray, Lord, thy blessings upon them as they seek to make a difference through Interfaith of Philadelphia, for the staff, for Abby, and for all those, oh God, who are working diligently to bring about the change that we all need. We pray, oh God, thy blessings upon the board and upon, oh God, all of those who will be affected, our young people. We pray, oh God, even as they look forward to a program in Montgomery County, that we might find ways to allow our youth to take part in this experience so they will grow and learn the value of respecting one another. So we thank you and we praise you. May we have shalom and peace in our hearts forevermore. We